Thanks for joining us today. My name is Travis Perkins. I'm joined here with my colleague Eddie Adder, and we have a webinar series today exploring NetSuite AI, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So you may have been at Suite World. You may have seen through previous webinars, we've mentioned a little bit of AI, where NetSuite really heavily introduced AI. Was around 2024, but they continue to improve a lot more of the information, making that information available and continuing to enhance NetSuite with artificial intelligence. And so we're going to discuss some areas of NetSuite that AI is immediately available in. So let's get started. As I said, myself, Travis Perkins, you've probably seen myself and my colleague Eddie. We've been involved in other webinar series. And a little bit about our company and our team. Our mission is to help customers achieve what's possible. We have experts in every industry, and our goal is to help customers grow in business processes within NetSuite. And we have a wonderful functional team. We also have a wonderful technical team. We work in NetSuite every day with projects, tasks that our customers have for us in almost every area of NetSuite. A lot of the technical work that we do are customizations and also integrations with third-party products. Some of our clients actually, their business processes require full-on customizations to integrate with other systems. So if you need help in that regard in all things NetSuite, please reach out to us. I have my contact information here at the end, so let's keep moving. So the overview today is we're going to show in this is the prompt builder. We gave some examples in a previous webinar. We're going to extend those into a more depth conversation about prompt builder. We're going to talk about intelligent recommendations. I'm looking forward to getting into all of these, specifically into the Suite Analytics and the RightInsight demo. One thing I want to mention too about RightInsight is that is for sure a product that we offer. We're going to get immediately into the business intelligent portion of using AI in existing saved searches. Ask it questions and ask it to structure data, and you'll see this exclusive tool here at the end when we show this. All of the AI pieces, and I imagine you're here because of the excitement around AI. So we're excited to show that. Some things that I want to mention that we're runners up to doing this webinar series is, and they haven't quite made it there yet, but NetSuite introduced it. It's not in NetSuite yet totally, but the Cache 360 cache forecasting piece is going to have AI applicable to that particular feature in NetSuite. I'm excited about that because if you've used Cache 360 or you know about it, I think it'll be pretty powerful, especially once you see some of the what the RightInsights can do for you with saved search information. Things that we're not necessarily showing that, but are there in NetSuite are the sales and CRM pieces like lead scoring and prioritization, the churn prediction, and also the sales forecasting that predicts future sales based on trends and opportunities. So NetSuite's going to be using AI to feed that information that you can ask it questions and derive answers from that. So let's continue moving forward into Prompt Builder. Thank you.
So Prompt Builder is an area of NetSuite that I think a lot of people are familiar with, although they might not be familiar with the terminology NetSuite uses. And I'm going to go ahead and actually switch over to NetSuite and show you this. So you should be seeing my NetSuite screen now, and I'm going to actually go ahead and go into Prompt Studio. And so you can see you can get here with Setup, Company, Prompt Studio, or of course, I just like to leverage the global search. And then once we're in Prompt Studio, you have two options here. There's prompts, and then there's text enhance actions. So I've already configured one. I'm going to go into it so you can see what I'm looking at here. So if I go in here, you can see the name is key points. And there's not a lot of info here, and you'll see why in a moment. But basically, this is setting up the action and the name. So I've named this key points. I've said that it applies to the entire text field, and that the language is set as English. The second half of setting up a new prompt is the actual prompt side, and this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So you can see I have something called key point summary. Again, I'm just going to go into edit. I've already set these up ahead of time. And so you can see that name is key point summary. I have a little prompt here that says refactor the text to focus on any action items found within. Um, and you can even preview the action if you want. There's also some advanced settings here, but generally you don't need to mess with any of this. You can just put your prompt in here. If you're used to working with ChatGPT or Gemini or those kind of chatbot tools, you'll probably be familiar with setting this up. And of course, we can help along the way too if you have any questions. So once that's configured, and this is where I say I think many have already seen this feature before, is in these long text boxes, you'll see this kind of magic AI icon. And so that icon is where these come in. So if I click this, there's a lot of native ones, right? So clean up, make longer, make shorter, translate. But then there's also key points, which is that custom one I made. So I've pre-typed out this box, simulating kind of raw notes I took on a phone call, just jotting down while I'm on the phone, right? Don't want to think too much because you want to be present and active on the phone call. But at the end, this is kind of a lot of text to consume. So if I want to simplify this, I can just click this. I can click my custom key points action. And this is, you can see basically the same information, but a lot more action oriented and a lot more readable at a glance for when I follow up. And you can see that the content is the same, but it's a lot more readable. And you can set up these actions to be record specific, right? So if I just wanted it on phone calls, you can also make the prompts do just about anything you want. So if you wanted to focus on action items or key points like this, or key to scalability in a business, right, is often repeatability and standardization. So you can now standardize kind of those raw form text that you might get from your team and standardize that based on some rules or criteria that you feed that, and then just set that up at the end.
So continuing on, we're going to talk about intelligent recommendations now. And, from the overview, this was the second bullet point. Just to give the context, we'll talk about item context in artificial intelligence. So let's talk about the artificial intelligence and around intelligent recommendations. So you might be familiar with what are called item substitutions. You might have set up in your system items in your system that have substitution records. And that is a manual setup procedure so that when your sales folks, when you're on an estimate or opportunity or a sales order record, those records have the ability when you are at the line level and you see or you have selected an item, you have an opportunity to do an item substitution for that particular line that you're on. And that has to be configured in the system. Well, what NetSuite has done is grown the process into what's called intelligent recommendations, and these are available on any account that has customer relationship management, Suite Commerce, or Suite Commerce Advanced enabled on there. Your account must meet further criteria if you're using Suite Commerce or Suite Commerce Advanced website, and we can help you with those configurations. But just to let you know, this in your environment is available if you just immediately have that customer relationship management. But the intelligent recommendation, it uses the artificial intelligence algorithms to calculate and display items that your customers might want to buy. Let's talk about the context of the item in terms of that intelligent algorithm. So down here on this slide here, the cart items. The cart items are really meaning that the items at the line level. And you could start out a sales order, for instance, if we just draw in your mind a blank sales order for a client that doesn't have any lines on it. We'll talk about that in a minute. What this refers to is cart items that are really on the line level that you've already selected. So already selected items generating a list of recommended items for each item that you have in your at the line level of your sales order. your opportunity record, and then to mention the estimate record. So also bought, moving on to this second box, is based on purchase history of other customers who bought the selected item. Again, that algorithm is looking at this information, and I'll show you how it distinguishes between the cart items, the bought, the recently viewed, and alternative items. The Suite Commerce, the recently viewed, it's related to items the shopper has recently viewed. So you might actually see some of this as artificial intelligence being used in other areas of like for your own personal needs, like on a different e-commerce site, say for instance Amazon. You might see some of that intelligence working for you because you've looked at items and it's suggesting other items. That's what NetSuite's doing at the line level. And then alternate items are specific items that are selected based on the similar name and description and category. I want to focus on that because I'm going to bring it up towards the end of talking about this particular feature and remember, we're going to be talking about the name, description, and category of when NetSuite's artificial intelligence algorithm is what it is actually looking at in considering for alternate items. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, which is the customer context. So the customer context, and you'll see again when we get over to NetSuite, and I just wanted to brief it here too, so that you have some slides when you refer back to this video, is the customer context is more along the lines of you can start a sales order and don't enter any lines and hit or select the intelligent recommendations button. And it's going to then look and see what is that customer bought, and also what have other customers purchased that are similar to the customer that you're actually standing on for that particular sales order, estimate or opportunity record. So that's when it's looking at the purchase history and buy again information. Some of this information may resonate with you from just your activity outside of NetSuite in other purchasing areas and other software on the web. So think of it holistically in the context of it's just looking at what is it that the customer has done, what is it that is in your system from an item perspective that could be used as an alternate item or selection. So let's continue on. The intelligent recommendations, it's machine learning. So I want you to know so that you're informed when you start using this and you start introducing, you have it set up and configured and you're working with the configuration, say in your sandbox, and you're expecting to see immediate gratification of AI running against your orders. It needs 24 hours to improve those recommendations because it's going to use AI to start building those trends in that information and registering it into the system so that then it becomes autonomous for you as you're on those transactions and selecting those items from those customers that you're building orders for. So just be aware that it's going to take some time to build it. Over time, you're going to accumulate a lot of information that the AI engine is going to use in those intelligent recommendations. So here I am showing what I just talked about. The top intelligent recommendation button is holistically looking at what the customer has purchased and what other customers have purchased similar to the customer that you're on and generating the transaction for. The bottom intelligent recommendation button is geared solely to the lines, the information, the items that are at the line level of that transaction. So let's look over into NetSuite here real quick. And I'm going to switch over. Earlier, let's see here. Let me switch over to a sales order. And actually, I want this one. It has a lot more packed on it. So this for TwitterWire Industries in this company, I've selected and have already made a sales order configured with these items on here. I do have the opportunity here still to click intelligent recommendations, which I'm going to do. These are the recommendations based on the customer. And this may sound like I'm repeating, and I am, which I did now probably 3 times if you're keeping count. It's looking at what the customer has purchased in addition to what other customers have purchased. Here's where you have the opportunity to select whether it's a buy again with the customer purchase history And you could also look to see if there are items already in the cart. You can use this top button for all of them, and you can select all of them here. So for instance, I can just tack these on as needed. So this this window, when I click on here, you may see the number 10. I know it's kind of small. I'll make it bigger for a moment. 10 right now is the most that is available by NetSuite in their AI tool. So when you click on this, if really your system has fewer items that it can suggest under 10, you'll see that, but it's not going to be more than 10. As I was exploring this, I actually went to NetSuite and talked to an engineer about what some further capabilities might be for the intelligent recommendations. Right now, they have it limited to 10, but as I said in the beginning, they're continuing to grow their AI and the intelligence behind it. So we'll see that all of these things improve over time. The primary focus, though, is on that button, which is the top button. I'll just reemphasize that it's looking holistically at the customer and the order as a whole. I'll close this window. And then let's scroll down and notice here on the intelligent recommendations button below. This is available and I can select it based on this line and only this line. So I will select it based on this I360 inventory impeller housing, and it is now using the information that I described earlier. And I said, let's hold on to that information, right? It's utilizing the name, the description, and the category for the item, and it's looking for other similar items that have information. Now, we might not see it completely in here just based on this, this demonstration data. This is what the intelligent recommendation is suggesting could be some recommendations based on alternative items here for the item that's on the i360. Now, this is an assembly item, and so it's more limited in use in this system than it is a standard inventory item. So, but you can see what's available. And it's the intuitive part that I really haven't covered is it's easy to select a quantity over here for the item that is that you're wanting to add, and then you can add multiples of those lines to your order based on the recommendations for alternative items. So I'll close this box. And then I'm going to move on to, let's see, let's go to a different line here. 1 second. I just wanted to pull up here. Yeah. So I think, okay, I might have clicked something different. I thought something was strange there for a minute, but here's what I wanted to show, and I'm glad it came back up, is this is where I have an opportunity. Maybe I need 2 of these, right? And another few of these. And then when I add and close, by the way, you can see based on alternative items, and it's giving you a readout of what customers who bought this also bought. And these are good recommendations for me as a salesperson interfacing with the sales order to go ahead and add and close this window. So I'll go ahead and do that too. It'll take a second. If you have a sandbox or have been in a demo account, you know that it's a little bit slower than the production system. So we'll let that churn, and let's come back here to the slide deck. So we were on the customer context, and I was describing the top and bottom buttons. And then let's talk a little bit more about the context of these. So the alternative items based on similarity, right? Customers who bought this also bought, and again, the order or cart items that are already selected. And what I wanted to show you is if we go ahead and we come out to this customer, let's bounce this out real quick. So I don't think I had a tab open. And then we'll go ahead and select to create a sales order here. 1 second. And when we load, it's just going to be that raw sales order form. And you'll notice down here is the sublist loads for the item, for the line items. We only have this button right now, but just give it a second. It's just finished loading here. All right, here we go. So I also have this intelligent recommendations, and there's really not much I can do here because I don't have an item. I can click this button, which I have, but nothing is occurring. However, the system does think that for TwitterWire Industries that it has at least 10 intelligent recommended items that it can list for you. And here they are. So one thing to notice is you have an opportunity again to select either both or one or the other to show up in this list. And I think that with this particular instance, each time I click in the white area, it's making the list go away. So please ignore that. We actually have this deployed in actual customer production accounts, and it works just fine. So what I want to do is call that out if you noticed it. I don't want to over explain it here, but I'm going to just go back into this button so we see the full list. And what it is based on buy again. When I select customer purchase history, and I'll click out of that and it's going to disappear because whatever is going on with this particular demonstration account. Now it's showing me both the buy again and the customer purchase history, which is available. And again, it's giving you some good feedback based on these items and that it's showing you, it's giving you the information that it is a buy again item or from the customer purchase history area. Holistically, it's looking at this customer, its orders, and other customer orders similar to this customer. It's not till I add a line that the intelligent recommendations button below here comes alive, and then you're able to further use the item recommendations from the intelligence recommendation section. Let's go back to the slide. And what I would like to show here is an item that has a sub item in this right-hand image on the slide deck. You can see that it has sub items available for selection. You can go into and click that sub items button and go into the sub items of any of these items and make those selections as well. So just know that your item selection in the intelligent recommendation pop-up window still serves much like it does just at the line level. So let's continue on. The recommendation scenarios. Here's in ending, I want to talk about it solely in the e-commerce portion, in the Suite Commerce portion of NetSuite. So there are some additional functionality that can be configured for the intelligent recommendations within Suite Commerce. So if you have a site and you are thinking about deploying intelligent recommendations in there, now we're talking not just in NetSuite user interface, but in Suite Commerce, you have the ability to adjust the recommendation scenarios and add to Blocklists. So if you do the configuration of the configuration guidelines for the recommendation scenarios, this is a set of configuration guidelines that the machine learning algorithm will follow. And while it's calculating which items to recommend. So if or when you configure this, you're really adjusting what AI should be recommending in your Suite Commerce site. So the same thing for Blocklists. When you select to not include items in the intelligent recommendations algorithm, then it's going to use the block list to do that. And in NetSuite, I showed this, and I know it's probably a little bit, I can show this directly in NetSuite, but navigating to it here under Commerce and Marketing is where you see under Intelligent Recommendations the ability to block or build recommendation scenarios. So if you're familiar with Suite Commerce and you have that deployed in your NetSuite instance, you will also have these intelligent recommendations scenarios that you can build out specifically for that. Everything that I talked to up to this point is just directly within CRM in your NetSuite user interface. All right, so I'll pause there, and if you do have some questions while I was talking, we'll go ahead and switch back over to the slide deck, and we'll introduce this incorporating AI into purpose-built customizations. So we'll turn it back over to Eddie. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the last slide before we get into kind of our custom solution. And I just wanted to briefly speak on NetSuite is making more and more of this available to developers as well. So if you want to incorporate, say, a custom prompt or something custom into your workflow, they expose that and make it a lot easier to access than, say, it had been in the past, right? So NetSuite's always supported integrations. Those that have gone through integration knows that that's sometimes a process. Now, instead of being an integration, it's available directly to developers to kind of use just like we load or modify, records in the system. So what this means is you can create chatbot-like customizations much more affordably, much more quickly. Um, and going back to another example, although the possibilities are kind of endless, in the very start with Prompt Builder, right, we showed you clicked on that magic AI icon and then clicked key items, and it summarized that field and it replaced that field. So instead, let's say you want to scan that text and see what your action items are or what the follow-up needs are or a follow-up date. We can prompt that to read that field and say, pull up follow-up items and a follow-up date from this, and then store that in, say, another field automatically. So the user wouldn't have to do anything extra. They just save the record, and then those follow-up items and date would populate, and it can be further customized to say send an email 2 days before that date is due. So it's making it more powerful to build customizations and really integrate it into your workflow a little easier. Um, we've played around with that. We wanted to take it, I hope, several steps further. And so we built an application called RightInsight. Um, and this is a Protelo exclusive product, and you can go ahead and go on to the next slide, Travis. I'm sure all of you here are probably already utilizing heavily to run your business. So I'm going to give you a demo of that in just a moment. But essentially, we take that saved search data, we feed it into AI and let that do a lot of the heavy lifting analysis for you. So let's go ahead and go into a few examples. And should be seeing my NetSuite again. I'm going to go ahead and go into our custom application. You can see it's right inside NetSuite. I'm going to go into RightInsight AI and go ahead and launch that. And you'll see here we have RightInsight. And so, as I mentioned, it currently relies on saved searches. So I'm going to pick a saved search that goes over vendor bill transactions. And I'm going to ask it for, let's say, the top 3 takeaways from this data. Right, so these are some recommended questions. I can type anything else I want in here if I wanted to focus on something else. And I'm just going to go ahead and click Analyze Data. So that's going to pull that report from NetSuite. It's going to read the data in that saved search, and then it's going to provide some insights based on our question here. So here's an example of the results. You can see it's broken down into an executive summary. So it read the information in here and realized that we have pretty significant liabilities, over $500,000. And it's found that it's concentrated in just a few key vendors. It also found a severely aged outstanding payment that's, what is that, about 5+ years old. Um, and so it found an anomaly as well. And it's went ahead and generated a graph that it thought we'd find useful. So we can see at a glance, these are our top 10 vendors by essentially the amount remaining that we have due. And so almost $250,000 with this one, and second place is 73. So this custom products vendor, it looks like we really owe some money to. And if I keep scrolling down, it's actually going to break that down further into different priorities and insights. So same as we saw, right, looking at this graph, AI saw it as well. It says custom products is the largest portion of outstanding liabilities, almost 40% of our liabilities. And it talks about an invoice outstanding that's severely overdue, right? That was that anomalous one. that's very old and probably needs to be paid. So it's marked that as high priority, and it's telling me I should investigate why that's so overdue, and then figure out a plan to pay this custom products vendor back. It's also flagged that beyond those where we're consistently paying late, which I think everyone agrees is an issue, right? So it's saying that we need to review our process and figure out why that's happening and where the bottleneck in that process is. Going further in here, again, it's found that there's some undefined or ambiguous payment terms for a significant chunk of vendors. So it's saying I can look at that, and that helps us stay on top of our data, right? So the best data is data that's consistently looked at and flagged when there's errors. Nothing's perfect, right? And so that's going to help us stay on top of that. So not only has it done this analysis, but now I can also ask it some follow-up questions. So let me see here. So it's already done the three takeaways. You saw the summary. Let's say I want to dive into those terms here. So it's saying that some vendors have terms of none listed, and I want that a little bit better formatted. So I'm going to say, uh, give me a list of vendors that have no terms set. And so I can see here it's looked over the data set and it's found that these vendors don't have any terms, which means I need to go to those vendor records and correct those. Um, I also want to see give me a list of vendors uh, with the top. What are the vendors with the five highest standing balance? And I'll tell it to give me in a table. So you can see here, it's calculated the five highest outstanding custom products, of course. And if we can, of course, pull this from here as well. Um, but I find this helpful because now maybe I'm just going to copy and paste this data into Excel. And I can analyze it further, for instance. I can also see maybe I've edited the search recently. I want to make sure that I pulled the right search. So I can say, what columns are available in the data I gave you? Okay, so I can see based on my search, it has access to this, and I could add more, I could remove more, right? It's entirely driven by the search. You're always in control of your data. And it looks like there's phone and email available. So I'm going to say add phone and email to the list of the top outstanding table, the top outstanding vendors. And so now I've got a list of my top outstanding vendors. I know I can call them. And let's say I want to move on to the same thing earlier we talked about terms, right? So um, show me vendors with terms of due on receipt or none. Um, Show me in a table, include their email. And so here are my list of vendors. I've got emails as long as the email is in the system, and I can see the ones that are due on receipt or none. And that's important because we're consistently paying late, right? So maybe that's because they don't have 30-day terms, they're due on receipt. And that's just not possible for us to turn it over that quickly. Now I can easily reach out to these and try and get different or better terms, right? So that's an example of one. I'm going to move on to another analysis now, using a different search and show you some additional capabilities here. So if I do sales by customer, and in this case, I'm just going to summarize the financial data. I'm going to go ahead and run that. And here is our result. So it's decided to group by year. It knows that 2025 is just a partial year because we're not through it yet. And it looks like our financial growth has been really good. Revenue's been escalating dramatically year over year. We can, of course, see that in the table. Um, and it's already set to make 2025 another strong year. Mostly from contributions, though concentrated among a top set of customers, right? So maybe we're not as diversified as we could be. If I scroll down further, it talks about our exponential growth and financial performance, um, total amount recorded from 2022 to 2023, and then up to over 5 million in 2024. And then with that through May, we're already at 4 million, right? So this is a pretty healthy, good trajectory we're on. Um, it talks about Abbott Inc., one of being our largest contributor, accounting for almost 20% of our revenue. And the second place is 1 million, right? So almost half of that. So we're probably at a bit of a risk in diversification, and it's found that and flagged that for us to consider. It's also found that there's some oddities in the data set, right? So there's some with negative amounts and there's some with zero amounts. So maybe this is expected. Maybe we know we gave them a free trial or something, and so we put that order in as zero. Or maybe there's a problem here. Maybe there's returns and we need to call and figure out what's going on. Or maybe that shouldn't have been zero and we're losing revenue, right? So it's flagged that as well for our attention. And then gives us a little bit of a pat on the back for going well and trying to maintain that efficiency. So I can go here and say, similar to before, let's start with a list of the top customers. So give me a list of the top 4 customers. Um, and all right, is that true overall? Is that true for only considering 2025? So maybe it's changed in 2025. That one's given the AI more to think about, right? Because now it's going to automatically divide our data set. It's going to group by year, and then also by the customer. So some of these can take a little bit longer to come back. It's pretty much always under a minute or so. And it looks like they are different, but very slightly, right? So 1 and 2 stayed the same, 3 and 4 changed. So maybe I want to call Smith Supplies because they used to be number 3 and they're not even top 4 anymore. So now I've got the email and the phone number. I can reach out and I can say um, to reach out and rebuild relationship with Smith. And so now I've even got the email, right? So I can just copy paste this, send this off to tsmith at Smith Supplies, and kind of be on my way. So it's a lot faster than manually slicing and dicing my data, going through, changing all those search parameters. Um, I'm gonna pause now in case there's any questions. I do have one more search I can run through if there's time, but let's take a little break and see if there's anything to go through.
Eddie, while you're looking, I'm going to answer a question real quick while you're looking. Earlier, somebody had asked a question about columns. Now, Kara in our group behind the scenes answered this question, but I also want to show at least a little bit more about the intelligent recommendations and just some things that I found while I was using it, and after talking with NetSuite, where those are at. So one sec here, let me share my screen again. So on this, hopefully everybody sees my screen. Do you guys see the intelligent recommendation slide? Is that correct, Eddie?
Yes, we do.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. So in here, there was a question about adding columns. And right now, with the native intelligent recommendation pop-up windows, there is not a configuration that would allow changing the format of what is displayed here. So if you're looking to add a column either on the main or the sub item pop-out windows here, that NetSuite doesn't currently have that capability. I also want to extend to that through AI, we can do additional modifications to give that look and feel to be different than the native solution. So just know there's some flexibility there. But natively columns, you can't add. What you are presented with is what you have. The other one I touched on earlier, but we'll just say it again. The maximum number that the intelligent recommendation is going to issue is 10 lines worth of information. So that's the max that it will recommend, up to 10, right? And then so increasing the number of displayed recommendations is limited to 10. And then let's understand, I want to bring an understanding to the alternative items filter. When you use the alternative items filter, you are at the mercy, if you will, of the sales order estimate opportunity record, looking at the name, and or not the display name, but the name, the description, and the category for the information for the intelligent recommendations to bring up additional items, to recommend those items. When you want to extend into custom fields, that isn't yet available. But again, I'm bringing this up because NetSuite is doing a very nice job of bringing along the AI in the system. So I expect that those will be coming. So I just wanted to just answer one of those questions that came up from Cynthia in the groups. So thank you.
Absolutely. The scanning here, I know I saw a question about reliability and accuracy of the data. Um, I don't have hard numbers on that, but I can say we've done a ton of tests going into this webinar, and I've been waiting for it to make a mistake, and it really hasn't. That being said, obviously AI data is always at risk of that, right? Especially if you've used these tools, you know that that's a possibility, but it's getting better all the time. And I know I've played with this a few times in the past, this idea. It's something we've wanted to do for a while. And I'd say that the AI models about 3 months ago showed huge improvement in terms of accuracy. And so that's why we've started moving forward with this now. So I think they've come a long way. I think they're going to continue to get better. And then I haven't had I haven't had an issue with accuracy in my testing. There's also a question on whether this is only used for saved searches. So right now it does only support saved searches. We have it on our roadmap to be able to pull in multiple saved searches. So you could analyze multiple or pull multiple data sources in at once to look at multiple angles. Um, we also have a planned improvement to work with Suite Analytics data sets. Um, so those are two additional possibilities there. Reports, NetSuite doesn't give a lot of access in terms of exporting those. So reports aren't supported, but almost always you can rewrite a report in a safe search. And of course, we're happy to help you out with that too, in terms of formatting your data in a way you can make the most of it, not only for this tool, but for yourself too.
Okay. Eddie, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to cover and focus on?
I have one more search I can show if we have time and don't have other questions. I don't remember if this was scheduled for 45 minutes or an hour.
I
Um,
think we have a few minutes, Eddie, and I appreciate you saying that because I think this is just an incredibly intelligent tool. When we were using it, just so everybody knows, our whole team was absolutely excited about just being able to have this technology and seeing what it was producing as the outcome. And even today, when Eddie's showing it here in this webinar, it really does just blow my mind at the capabilities of efficiency, because when you are able to just ask questions, which you know that you're doing every day in your head while you're interfacing with NetSuite, you're typing those out and NetSuite is just giving those answers back to you. I really have a great appreciation for this, and there's, like I've said in other areas of NetSuite, this is a huge hit in being able to evolve what is there. So what we've created is RightInsight. And Eddie, I didn't mean to kind of talk over you there, but I just wanted the opportunity to show again just this intelligence that you've built into NetSuite. And we can help any of our clients. If you're interested, please let us know here at the end. We'll have contact information to do that.
yeah, and I appreciate that, Travis. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, this time I'm going to actually do a custom prompt. I'm going to say, analyze the performance of the sales reps. Um, I have a sales rep commission search here. To go ahead and search over that. And so again, here's the summary. It's talking about how it's highly concentrated, right? And again, it shows us that in the graph. Burt Bacchus is generating an overwhelming majority of the gross profit, um, largely due to a single exceptional large transaction, right? So either there's a mistake or an outlier. Um, it's also flagging that we've got someone that's consistently got negative gross profit. So that's something we've got to stay on top of. And some other maybe performance concerns in our data here. And you can definitely see that Bert's got a significant outlier transaction there. So massive amount, 90%, single transaction in December of 2024, right? So that's going to let us single that out. And obviously that makes us very reliant on Bert. It's also flagged that Matt Fisher has negative gross profit, and it's been consistently negative gross profit. Um, of course, that's costing us money, so we need to go contact Matt, figure out what's going on there. And then we have some kind of variable performance. So every once in a while, we get negative gross profit from certain sales reps, and it calls them out, and it calls kind of out their worst month. Um, Looks like August is consistently not a great month for all of these. So maybe we already know something happened in our business in August, or maybe that's an indicator for something we want to dig more into. Um, Again, the performance disparity, and it understands, right, that Bert is an outlier. So even ignoring Bert, it's saying that these two lead the sales team, and everyone else can kind of be far behind. And then again, it's helping us with those data inconsistencies. It realizes that maybe it's a low priority, but there's some contact information for these sales reps that is not in NetSuite and probably should be. And there's a few people without a supervisor.
Yeah,
So,
that is just amazing. Sorry, Eddie, just to interrupt you. This is
mhm.
available over any area of their business in NetSuite, correct?
Yes, anything that a saved search can support.
Yeah, and that's huge. If you know and are using Save Searches heavily in NetSuite, and if you're not, we can help you configure this so in your system you're getting the results similar to what Eddie here is showing. And this isn't available anywhere, right? You can get this directly from Protelo, and it's brand new and it works just incredibly intelligently. The advantage to navigating through all the data is it's a very simple process for the AI to do it, and then eliminates and frees you up to having to do all of that analysis and those communications. I love the email part that you had described in there, how it just came up with that. Those things, if you're already using AI for some of your communications, you can take directly out of NetSuite with the data and ship it off in an email. And we can get you started on that right away with RightInsight. I see you're still
And
going and
so
stuff. This is
again,
good.
right, those that have been watching. So now I want to see if there's significant differences in gross profit between the supervisors, because maybe it's not really a sales rep problem, maybe it's a supervisor problem. So it's going to group that and break that down for me. Um, and again, I don't want Burt's to skew the data, and maybe I don't want to go back and edit my search. So instead, I'm just going to say ignore Burt's large transaction. Um, and it's going to rerun that and basically get rid of that outlier transaction. You can see we still have the skew. Um, so I'm going to say, give me contact info for the bottom three sales reps in a table. Show their GP in 2025. And so now I can see their phone numbers, who their supervisor is, and then I can figure out here's their gross profit, right, for 2025 specifically, because we're already 7 months in. So let's focus on the present, not necessarily the past, right, if we're going to reach out and correct something. So that's what I had to demo. Again, I'll take a short break for pause or questions, but hopefully you're as excited about this as we are. And I know it was a lot of fun to build. So
Yeah, thanks. And it's immediately available. Let's go ahead and switch back. So as I'm resharing my screen here, stick with us. We have, if we're going through some Q&A here at the end. Please ask us anything. Kara has started the poll. And again, I said in the beginning, I'll say it again. We appreciate you participating, taking time out of your busy day to join us for this webinar series. We feel like these are just very powerful tools in NetSuite that we demonstrated today. And then as you saw with RightInsight, please reach out. We can get started with you as soon as this week. If you have questions following this webinar, please reach out to us. If you need help integrating AI with your business, we have this to, again, ease of use. Scan this QR code in. You can reach directly out and reach out to us post this webinar anytime, ask some questions. And if you already have my contact information, please reach out to me directly. If I don't answer the question, somebody on our team will, especially Eddie and I are here to help out. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.